how outraged he is about the nitwit pundits on television, when in fact he is one. My second comment is something that has bothered me for years, and I just revel in this moment to be able to say it. Why can you not let Eleanor Cliff finish a sentence on the McLaughlin Group? I mean, for years and years I've watched the McLaughlin Group. You cannot let her finish a sentence. Are you threatened by what she's saying because her viewpoint differs from you, and she's the only person on the program except John McLaughlin that will challenge you? Or do you just think because she's a woman, her comments are irrelevant? What is your position about the way you treat that woman Sunday after Sunday? And my third point is, you know very well, you're not a stupid man, and you know very well the situation in 1994 regarding John Kerry's vote on gas prices is a very different situation than we're facing today. And I'll hang up and let you comment.
Well, I think Eleanor is well able to handle herself as she has for many years. We have a vigorous exchange. We're all interrupting each other on the show. That's sort of the nature of the beast. It results, I believe, by the way, in very high ratings because we not only get into a lot of substance, we have a little fun doing it. You know, I'm not going to get into the details of who interrupts whom. I happen to sometimes think she's mastered the art of interrupting me by saying, let me finish a sentence. But we both get our shots in. I don't have any problems one way or the other with her being a woman. I get into arguments with McLaughlin and with Pat Buchanan, whoever's in the other liberal chair. So we have a good time. I think we have a great debate, and the ratings prove the public thinks so too.
What makes you different?
Obviously, I think I'm right, and I think other people are wrong. I try. Maybe I don't accomplish it. I try to understand the facts and accept my opponent's. But when there's a fact that my opponent presents that has to be dealt with, I try to deal with it. Either I disagree with the fact, or I say, here's how I think it's going to play out. But I don't ignore the fact. I think a lot of people on this exit from Iraq are ignoring the big fact that there will be a price to pay. And they've been very glibly using this phrase, exit strategy. The phrase exit strategy has become a fixture in American international and military politics, now going back, I guess, to Colin Powell in the Reagan administration and Caspar Weinberger. I think it's a very dangerous concept. We didn't have an exit strategy in World War II or World War I or the Civil War or the Revolutionary War. We had a victory strategy. The idea that we need an exit strategy, I think, is a very dangerous prospect. And it then gets glibly used by people who I don't think have thought it through. I think I've thought it through. Now, I could be wrong, but I've thought about it a lot. I thought about it when it was being used 15 years ago, and I didn't much like it then. I like it even less now because I think it's more dangerous. So I think when people don't deal with it. Now, Pat Buchanan, as I pointed out, who disagrees with me firmly on the issue, has thought about it. He comes to a different calculation as to what the costs are for going versus staying. But he's addressed the issue, and that's what I think. That's why Pat is not a nitwit pundit, and I hope, I'm not always a nitwit pundit.
You have criticized some of your journalistic colleagues for the airing or the publishing of the newspaper, of the photos from Abu Ghraib.
Not the first round. It was the Washington Post's publications last Friday that I thought was excessive. And I think they've been on the defensive on that since they published them.
Why not publish them?
Well, the argument that I believe one of the editors at the Post said was that it should advance a story or something. And I don't see, and I don't think a lot of people saw how repetitions of these photos. They got 2,000, apparently, roughly 2,000 photographs in the set. And they can release them, I suppose, every week for the next 10 years. I think that does a lot of damage to our ability as a country to try to accomplish something useful, both for Iraqis and people in the Middle East and for ourselves. And if we're going to be constantly throwing this kind of inflammatory imagery out in there for no reason that advances the story. We know what the story is. We've seen enough pictures to know the abuses occurred. The process of fixing it is instead, the Congress has got 6 different hearings overseeing this. This is not something that's going to be put under the rug. General Sanchez is imminently going to be removed from the scene. The Pentagon says not for that reason, but nonetheless, it's clear there are going to be huge consequences to pay for what happened at that prison, and there should have been, and there should be. So it's not a question of grabbing the public's attention for the purpose of advancing reform or cleaning up a mess. it's either, to me, and I said in our editorial, three reasons. Either it's to sell newspapers, it's to be against Bush on a partisan basis, or it's to be against the war. And I think that certainly the latter two are inappropriate for a journalistic policy. The former one, I understand, you try to sell newspapers. Nonetheless, when there's a price to be paid for our troops in the field and for our success of our policy, which everybody from Biden and Kerry to Bush agree we're going to stay there and try to get the job done. So even if Bush gets defeated, Kerry's going to inherit the consequences of American media that is unnecessarily fueling hatred of Americans in the Middle East.
Atlanta, Georgia.